Hi, welcome to LearnDebate.net. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to organize your speech. I'm going to present a very basic structure to organize a speech and tell you why each part of that is important. Before that, let me briefly tell you why organization is important. Now, everybody is afraid of public speaking, right? I was afraid of public speaking, and in fact, it's the most common fear in the world. The easiest way to get past that fear, not the only way, but the easiest way, and I think the first thing that you need to understand is that a speech can be broken up into its parts. And once you understand and you master each part, then you'll be able to take on the speech as a whole. So it's far more daunting, a little more scary to look at a speech as one large thing and then not know where to start. But if you can break it down, that would really help you be able to deal with that speech. And that's the main reason why organization of a speech is important, because it helps you to deal with that speech, to break it down, to challenge that part by part. But also, we have to realize that spoken communication is something that's very fluid. Right? It's unlike, say, written communication, where if you read a book or a magazine, if you miss something, then the reader can skip to the paragraph that was before that or go to the page before that. So written communication or even recorded communication like this, there's a lot of control in the hands of the person who's receiving it. But if you are giving a live speech, if you lose the attention of the audience for 1 second or for one moment, or if you go over one part of your speech too quickly, then it's gone, it's lost. Right? And if an audience misses one part of that and you don't go back to that or you don't refer to that part of your speech, then that audience or that person is going to be confused for the rest of the speech. Right? So organization is really, really important to make sure that you maximize the impact of your speech, to make sure the audience doesn't miss anything. Okay? So, good, that's why organization is important. So, let me give you a brief outline. So, this is a very simple way to organize your speech, but I think it's the foundation, the starting block of organization. There are 5 parts to the speech. There is the opening, the outline, the content, which is the bulk of your speech, a summary, and a closing. Right? So, the opening and the closing are on either end of your speech. The outline and the summary are also kind of similar. I'll get to that in the middle, in a minute. And this is the content part of your speech, which is going to be the bulk, the meat in the sandwich, so to say. So let's go in order. Let's start with the opening. How do people usually start a speech? Well, I'm asking you. At this point, we usually interact. But you're saying things. Maybe I can't really hear you, but that's okay. So I'll answer for you. How do people usually start their speech? Well, I don't know. People will start with a greeting, good morning, good afternoon, how do you do? People start with a self-introduction, perhaps. Hi, my name is, Logan, and I'm here today to talk to you about public speaking, how to organize a speech. Some people talk about the weather. It's such a lovely day today. The sun is out, spring is here, and now let me get to my speech. There are 1,000 different ways to start with your speech, right? The key is to start with something that can maximize the impact of what you're going to say, maximize the attention that the audience has already at that point, right? The attention of the audience is highest at the start and at the end of your speech. At the start of the speech, because it's just beginning, there's a sense of expectation, nothing has happened yet, right? They're expecting something new, therefore attention is naturally at its highest. The same applies to the end of a speech, because they know it's going to end, it's finished, there's a clear transition. At that point, if an audience member is sleeping, they wake up, right? This is quite natural. You think about a class, your attention is highest at the start of the class, and at the end of the class, if you think about a movie, people almost always remember how a movie starts and how a movie ends, right? In the middle, you may lose attention, but at the start and at the end, you definitely remember, right? So that's why it's super important for you to maximize that natural high attention that your audience has. So don't waste it on making empty greetings or useless self-introductions if people already know you, or worse, talking about irrelevant things like the weather or going off on a tangent, right? Use that start to jump right into your speech, to talk about the thing that can best captivate your audience, to set the tone of what you want, right? So start with a joke, for example, if you want them to laugh. To build a good relationship with the audience. Jokes are great. If the audience is laughing, that means they're enjoying your speech. They're going to remember that experience. The flip side is sometimes people don't laugh. sense of humor is diverse, and sometimes your jokes are not funny. Well, funny to you, not funny to them. That's okay in that situation. You make a joke about the joke, maybe, and then you move on. Or you can start with a powerful statement, right? This is why every human being has rights given by God. And that's why we need to talk about the important rights that belong to the citizens today. And then you get into the content of your speech. Or you start with a question. How many of you had a difficult choice when choosing which university to come to? Okay? Questions make people think. And sometimes they won't provide an answer, especially if the question is rhetorical. Sometimes they will. If they will, you create interaction with your audience, right? That's good. You can start with an example. You can start with a fact. You can start with a quotation. You can start with a personal story, an experience, right? Share something. That's also powerful because in a way, you're introducing yourself and sharing a part of you with your audience, right? So there are many different things that you can start your speech with. Think of something that's unconventional. Something that not everyone uses to start their speech, because if your speech starts the same way the person before you and the person before them started their speech, then you're going to sound exactly like them. Half your audience would have already made up their minds about your speech. You think about going for an interview, right? You could be the second, or you could be the 20th or the 200th person that person is going to see. And if everyone starts with a personal introduction, hi, my name is Larry, I'm here to talk to you about myself and you just become just like the person before you, right? And you don't want that. You want to be unique, you want to be different, you want to be special. So start with something different, right? And don't start with something that takes people's attention and puts them into a place that's not connected to your speech. Don't talk about the weather if the weather's not relevant to what you're going to talk about. Don't talk about some kind of fact that's not connected to your speech just because you wanted to talk about it. No. If I'm going to talk to you today about why you should give money to this particular charity, then I want to start with a sad story to get you into the mood, to make you feel sad, to pull at your heartstrings, and then I get to the point and get to what I want, right? So use that opening. It's a wonderful chance to make a powerful first impression and to maximize the natural attention that your audience is paying to you. The closing works in a very similar way to the opening. It's the last impression that you're going to create from your audience. It's the last time you may see them, right? And that's also, again, the point at which their attention is highest. Very often, an audience may lose attention at the middle part of your speech or towards the end, not really pay attention, but they wake up at the end, and that's going to be what defines how they remember your speech, right? So you may be frustrated in the speech, you get a little bit anxious, the speech is taking too long, your jokes didn't work. Very often to the end, we just want to quit, we just want to leave, right? Or you run out of things to say, so I finished my speech, the end. Or what's even worse is some people, as they end their speech, will start to leave. And so those are the reasons why today I really support euthanasia. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That just shows people that you were not proud of your speech, that you are anxious to get out of there, that you did not enjoy this experience that you and your audience shared, right? And there can be no greater, more discouraging message to send to your audience, to the people who are listening to you, who shared that experience with you. And they're thinking, if this person didn't like his speech, if he's not proud of his speech, why should I like it? Why should I be proud of it? So no matter how bad you feel, or how terribly wrong your speech went, you should always, always, always end strong. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to support this charity and their goals, and I urge you to join me and support them too, right? Something like that. Or you can end with all the different things that we talked about to start the speech. End with a question, end with a joke, end with personal experience, end with a statistic, end with a fact, end with a quotation, end with something powerful that creates a strong and lasting final impression. Something that makes it very difficult for them to forget you, right? And believe me, even if you feel that the earlier part of your speech did not go well, if you end strong, that is going to define their experience. They will say, man, that person enjoyed their speech. That was a good, strong, powerful closing. I think that speech went well. Okay? So, openings and closings, first and last impressions, very, very powerful. Even if the middle didn't go well, the first and last impression will define, to a large extent, how they thought, how they felt your speech went. Don't waste it on something irrelevant. Try to be creative and new. Connect those ideas to things that you have talked about in your speech. Use it to set the tone at the start of the speech and at the end of the speech. Use it to remind people of what you talked about. Emphasize something important. If you want people to remember one thing from your speech, what was it? Emphasize that idea, that feeling, that message in your closing. Okay? Good. Outlines and summaries. Outlines and summaries are also similar. An outline is a brief preview of your speech. You're going to tell the audience what you're going to talk about. You're going to create expectation. Okay, so the outline may go something like this. In this speech today, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should put your money with our bank. The first reason is our track record of strong investments. The second reason is our wonderful customer service. And the third reason are all these additional benefits you'll get for being a member of our bank. Okay? So what you're doing there is you are giving a focus or a direction to your speech. And you're telling people the 3 major areas of the things that you're going to cover. It doesn't have to be 3, although it's usually 3. It's a kind of a magic number, right? But whatever the key points are, you're going to tell them those are the other major things that you're going to talk about in your speech, okay? What that does is it builds an expectation in the audience. It prepares them to get that information. So later in your speech, when you actually start talking about your track record of the bank or start talking about customer service, those points seem more familiar to them. That encourages them to remember those ideas. So this is the part where you're helping people catch information. You're making sure that they can follow your speech smoothly and cleanly and don't lose information, right? This previewing of content and then delivering content and then summarizing content is a great way to make sure your audience remembers what you're going to talk about, right? And it's an idea that you can carry on through other parts of your speech as well. So before you talk about a new idea, you tell them what you're going to talk about, and then you talk about it, and then you tell them what you have talked about, right? So you preview it, you deliver it, and then you summarize and emphasize it, right? And that's what you do at the end. So I preview my speech, I go through the main areas of my speech, and then in the summary at the end of my speech, I repeat my preview. I emphasize and summarize the things that I've said. So at the end I would say something like, in the speech about the bank, I'd say, so what have I told you today? I've given you 3 wonderful reasons why you should put your money with us. Firstly, I talked about our long track record of wonderful investments. Secondly, excellent customer service. And third, but definitely not least, I talked about all the additional benefits you can get if you join our bank, right? What you're doing is you're reminding people. So in case someone has drifted off in the middle, lost attention, got a little bit confused, they get reminded. They remember those key phrases and those major points. Now, the outlines and the summaries should be brief, right? And the outline and the summary should be mostly identical. Don't change the names of the points which you are using. If in the start I say the long track record of my bank, and at the end I say our experience, that will sound like 2 different points. It could be essentially the same idea and the same concept, but it makes it far more difficult for the audience to remember that, or at least it may lead to them being confused, right? So use the same wording or the same name of those points, identical in your outline and in your summary. You're also going to use those labels in your content. So in my content, when I'm actually discussing those 3 points, I'm going to structure them by those labels. I'm going to call them track record, customer service, and finally, benefits. So I'll be using those words at least 3 times in the speech, right? Now I'm going to talk in a little bit once I clear the board and come back again, take a short break, I'm going to talk about how to structure each one of these points. Okay, but for now, remember these 5 parts. Your opening, your outline, your content, your summary, and your closing. Right? The opening and outline are short, as are the summary and closing. So your opening would typically be 1 or 2 sentences. It shouldn't be too long. If your opening is too long, it could distract audiences from the main part of your speech. Your outline should also be short. One thing to be careful about when making your outline is don't start explaining your points when outlining them. Because it's just an outline, you're not explaining them. Right? So don't start talking about the long track record. Just say the words long track record, pause, let it sink in, move on to the next label, and then move on to the next one, pause for a bit, and then continue. Right? The same applies for the summary and the closing. Always, always end your speech strong. I know it can be difficult, especially if you feel anxious and nervous, if you feel your speech did not go well, but always end strong. Remember that that's what people are going to remember. Alright, that's it for now. I'll come back in a bit and tell you how to structure each individual point in your content. See ya.